Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Ed O'Keefe. On this program, at least, we have a rule that it's never too early to start thinking and reporting on the next round of elections. And there's about a year and a half until the 2024 presidential election. So here we go. But there's only one candidate officially in the race. Former President Donald Trump, of course, announced his candidacy in November, despite facing several ongoing investigations. Meanwhile, President Biden has signaled his intent to run, but has not yet made an official announcement. Among the many other Republican names in the mix is South Dakota's Republican Governor Kristi Noem, who spoke today with CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa about the upcoming race. Take a look.
Where are you, Governor, on your own political future? When will you make a final decision on whether you will run in 2024?
Oh, you know, Bob, I get up every single day and work to help South Dakota be successful. So I'm not convinced that I need to run for president, but I also believe that this country needs somebody to lead us that has a vision, that appreciates the freedoms that this country provides to the people that live here and really does want to protect them and our constitutional rights going forward. So, I think that as we go through the coming months and even the next year, year and a half, that leader will emerge.
South Dakota, not far from Iowa, even the Sioux City media market touches South Dakota a little bit. Will you be heading to Iowa in the coming months to just talk to Republicans in a state other than your own?
I think I've been going to Iowa to talk to people since I was a little girl. So, I'm a farm girl and a rancher, and I've got lots of family and friends that are in Iowa, and it's just our neighbors. So I guarantee you that will be happening just because of how I've grown up in my way of life. And we also have a farm bill that's coming up that's incredibly important. I've always been heavily engaged in those policies that impacts Iowa and the great state of South Dakota. So we'll need to partner to make sure that we have policies in this country that continue to protect our food supply. I've been talking for over 20 years now about how our food supply is a national security issue. And protecting that is incredibly important, and making sure we continue to grow our own food in this country is important as well.
Do you not feel a rush, Governor, to make a decision on 2024?
I don't, Bob, at all. No, I think that it's important that people focus on governing rather than going out and making big, broad statements and going out and taking action for their own political futures. America literally is under attack right now. We're under attack by foreign governments, by people within our own federal government who want to take away our rights. South Dakota has been an example to the nation in how we've defended personal responsibility and freedom. We're going to continue to do that and make sure that we're leading a life of significance. I do believe that the American people are desperate for someone who's not talking politics, who instead is taking action to protect our way of life.
Former President Trump, your longtime ally, already running for president. Could you see yourself, if you don't run, getting behind his candidacy?
President Trump's policies were very good for South Dakota. I worked with him for over 2 years on tax reform, which I was passionate about. He cared a lot about keeping America strong, defending us from our enemies, both here and abroad. So his policies helped my people be successful. And if we could go back to a day where we had those policies in place, we would continue to thrive far into the future.
And Robert Costa joins us now with more. She didn't quite say yes when you asked whether she'd back former President Trump, because she's obviously thinking about it herself, huh?
She is so far not moving formally toward a 2024 presidential race, but her position on abortion, where she has embraced South Dakota's ban on abortion with an exception for the life of the mother, shows that she wants to take what many Republicans would consider a hardline position on abortion. And this comes as others who are looking potentially at the race, like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, are in states that are a little bit more politically complicated than South Dakota, which is a ruby red state. There's a 15-week ban in Florida that DeSantis has signed into law. All this is to say is that we're in a very interesting political moment where Republicans are not announcing campaigns yet, but they're navigating the abortion issue and figuring out where does that socially conservative voter live right now in a post-Dobbs world, and where should they be politically and policy-wise on the issue of abortion.
And is the waiting and seeing, based on your reporting, because of Trump, they don't want to be the only other one out there? Or is it because so many of these guys are active governors that they actually have legislative sessions they need to finish first, and they don't even have the time really to think about this.
It's all of the above, based on what I've heard. There is a consensus among so many of these contenders that Trump wants a foil, and nobody wants to be that foil.
Yeah.
Especially they don't want to be the first person to jump in the pool. Because if Trump, at this moment, has no one he can hit politically, he's just running by himself. He's having an event in South Carolina next week, but he has no one to run against. And so their thought process, in short, is finish your legislative session, work in the Senate, toil in the House, figure out what you're doing with donors and activists, still make some trips, but don't give Trump that foil. Because the first question anyone who jumps in will get from you or from me will likely be something to the effect of, what about former President Trump? Are you running against him, and why?
Yeah. He, speaking of former President Trump, gave an interview to a conservative outlet last night where he was asked once again about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, threw a little bit more shade. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
And I endorsed Ron, and Ron, instead of dropping out of the race, he went to the head of the race by a lot. Now I hear he might want to run against me, so we'll handle that the way I handle things.
We'll handle that the way I handle things. I mean, that's exactly what you're speaking about. He's ready to be in the ring with DeSantis if he needs to be.
Well, he has already signaled that he is ready to give DeSantis a nickname, Ron DeSanctimonious.
Oh, yes.
It seems like he was test driving certain nicknames early on. And there's also a sense among so many strategists that if you don't give Trump oxygen, maybe it could fade his political career, that it won't happen overnight. But if he's denied oxygen that he needs, if he doesn't have political combat, if he doesn't have his Twitter account, then somehow maybe there will become an opening, a crack in the Republican Party for others to slip through.
There are at least a dozen Republican names in the mix, depending on where you read it or where you watch it. Obviously, Governor Noem, former President Trump, handful of others, former Vice President Mike Pence, who you spoke to last week, of course. Who else are you most actively watching right now? Either because they might jump in early or because they've taken the most serious steps so far ahead of a formal announcement.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Governor Noem is she is someone who is tight with social conservatives nationwide. She has a base from her days in the House. And does someone like that think about jumping in early, who's aligned with Trump, but wouldn't be an easy foil for him because she's been such a supporter? And she seems much more inclined to take on DeSantis, if a little bit indirectly, on issues like abortion. I'm watching Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia. You can only be a one-term governor in Virginia. If you want a second term, you have to wait a term, as you know. So does Youngkin decide to get in? He's working with advisor Jeff Rowe, who ran Ted Cruz's 2016 campaign. Does the Rowe-Youngkin combination lead to a 2024 Youngkin campaign? Remains to be seen. It's possible. DeSantis is out there working with people like Phil Cox, and his wife's a top political advisor to the Florida governor. Do they start moving toward it? I keep hearing he's going to wait until May or June or even later. And beyond that, you have to keep an eye on the Senate. As you know, we've covered the Senate together. Does Ted Cruz decide to jump in? Right. Josh Hawley. There's a lot of ambition in that chamber.
Yeah. All across the party. We'll see. Well, Robert Costa, great conversation with Governor Noem. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.